now.
There we go. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Excellent. Hi, welcome to Write More Light. I am Sarah Elgatian from the Midwest Writing Center, and today I have with me local arts activist Royce Barnett, aka Crunk Chocolate. I'm super excited about this. I've known Royce for a bajillion years, um, and I've loved when I lived away from the Quad Cities, seeing him rise into this super suave, cool place where he's all over everything. So currently he has like 1,000 projects in which he just does tons of tons of arts events and community building. It's really cool. His 4 projects, I think I might get this wrong because I know he also does shows and like live events. Obviously, that's one of the things we're here to talk about. But he's got a Stuck in the Middle podcast in which he talks about what what life is like with all the fun pop culture issues that podcasts talk about as a Black man in Iowa. What's happening? That's a beer podcast. He's got the festival show, which is a live performance show, and a new project called That Warm Feeling. So I am super pumped to talk to you about all this stuff, Royce. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone viewing on Facebook.
As usual, so I'm going to do a little intro for maybe newcomers. We're going to go through the interview thing, and then at the end, we're gonna talk about Midwest Writing Center events that are coming up. We're going to talk about Royce's events that are coming up, and then we're going to do our free write that we always do. Um, yeah, there we go. So, you want to dig into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, sure. Stuck in the Middle Pod, like you said, that is a weekly podcast. And I talk about everything under the sun. I kind of split it up in like 4 sections. I treat it almost like a old school radio show, so I play music throughout the episode. I have an intro, and that's done by my good friend King Supreme. And so I always start it off, and I'll talk about like myself, what I've been up to, and then like racial inequality. And then from there, I'll go about COVID, and then from there, it's usually a mixed medley of pop culture, silliness. There, I have Chew News, where I talk about just like food stories, food, beverages. Speaking soccer is I'm a big Manchester City fan, and so I speak about Manchester City at length, like you know what I'm talking about. And I try to speak with an English accent as long as I can. Sometimes it's great, sometimes not so much. And yeah, and it's great music throughout it. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's about like 60 plus minutes, and I do it as an aspect of it's like a conversation. So I even started off and I ask you, how are you doing today? And I pause. And so it's really trying to like embrace its welcome. I've been doing that for 3 years or so now. And so it's just been really fun to grow and, build friendships and connections based off of that. What's Happening Pod? That is my beer podcast that I do with my homie Glenn Cole. What and he is a professional brewer. I am not. So it's kind of the aspect of we do beer samples throughout it. Glenn is a beer nerd, so he can talk about beer in depth for a very long time. I'm there to just kind of like giggle, laugh, throw on some levity, and then when he starts getting like way too far in the beer world, I can kind of pull him back and be like, "Hey, what does any of that even mean?" And so
Well, that's
the
great.
ep- yeah, exactly. And the episodes are about they vary. So we can either interview people in the craft beer world, or we'll talk about craft beer culture and stories. So it's almost like a TMZ style because the beer world it's kind of messy. Like stuff happens everywhere, and that's actually half the reason why it happened because Glenn would always be sending me these stories, and I was just like, why does no one talk about this? And all the other beer, there are like beer podcasts out there where they'll interview other beer people. So it's either that and it's just from an aspect of like beer culture. And so even then it's kind of hard to get into, or it's just like a bunch of old drunk dudes and they're just talking about beer, and even then it's very boring. So
Those really, really niche podcasts. I
yes,
totally
it,
feel you.
I'm a very big fan of just trying to fit in where you need to be and just like doing your best while you're there.
Um, I know you've got at least two other projects to talk about, but I'd like to say, while I have you, while we're on the podcast topic, I'm not a podcast person, and it's been a weird point of shame for me as I've gotten really into it. Because I always keep being like, but you don't listen to talk radio. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, yeah,
I have a
yeah.
really hard time with things that don't have visuals. So yours is the first podcast that I ever stuck in the middle that I ever listened to, that I ever got into. I know you know this, but this is for people who don't.
And I appreciate that.
And something that's really comforting to me about it is that it's very real. You're uh, I know other podcasts are very conversational. People go through like news and pop culture headlines, and you do that too. But it's really comforting to me to be like, oh, this guy's from my hometown, and also like I know he's a good dude. I don't have to research him and be like, am I going to end up supporting something super controversial? Um, but it's also, I feel like it's definitely a really good beginner podcast.
Yeah,
That might
like
just be me as someone who doesn't love listening. Um,
yeah, I appreciate that.
it's definitely, yeah, super easy to get into, and I'm really, really grateful about it because you don't, it's very low pressure on the audience. So I'm grateful for that. Uh,
Yes.
Also, because you're local, maybe, or Midwestern, I don't want to say like hyper local because you've been doing this longer than I've been in Iowa. Um, because it is from the Midwest, I also feel like I know what's going on, what you're talking about, where a lot of the times, because you know this, no one else does. I try podcasts a lot. I really want
Yeah.
to be in on this secret that everybody's in on. Um, and I have no idea what they're talking about a lot, even if it's just like pop culture news. But I feel like if this dude from my hometown is talking about it, then I probably can find an angle to understand, which I'm really grateful for, especially since I find podcasts difficult.
Well, and it's funny too because the way that I started is I always wanted to be in a podcast. I joined this podcast with two other dudes. One guy fell out, and then one this year before COVID moved to Wisconsin, and the whole plan was he was going to come like once a month, and we were going to record like 2 or 3 episodes, and then I'd do a couple by myself, and then he'd come and we record 2 or 3 episodes, and then COVID hit. So I've just been running it, and I changed the format is completely different because with Fat Boy, it was basically I would control the conversation and he would like chime in, but his chiming in was basically just like making fun of me. It was
No,
and
but his
we
is
it,
so good, and his voice, I wanted him to talk me to sleep.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was like you were, and that's what I wanted to try to keep because listening to it when it was us two, it was like you were hanging out with a group of buddies and you're just listening to two dudes just like be goofy. And I truly look, I got fuzz. I truly try to look into. I do deep research. I very much care about the information that I'm coming out, what's true. But I also try to tilt a little bit for its opinion, so it doesn't seem like I'm preaching because that was the first problem that I felt like I was having when I was changing to when it was just myself was I now had to control the conversation the entire time, the pacing, and if I'm trying to have this conversation, it needs to feel like I'm trying to let you know almost like my opinion of the side that I'm not being like, hey, you're dumb for not agreeing with me. And so it's been very helpful. Like my last episode I did, so I had like this really weird experience with this guy, this old white guy, and basically he was just like, I don't like the N word, and I was like, cool, I don't like it either, but it like inspired me to this whole like rant, and the aspect was I was like, okay, let me use some like dated old white guy that will like maybe you'll understand, like Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan uses the word brother all the time, and the word brother does not trigger you because it doesn't. We use the word nigga as brother, but like if Hulk Hogan says brother, you don't get triggered, but with me, and then I also correlated that technically especially for like older white guys. Ronald Reagan, the introduction to the rated R, the not safe on CDs when that was once upon a time, where they'd have the explicit content here, where that basically like villainized and shamed the N word because that's basically what they were trying to protect was cuss words, and then that word also then got tied to like gangsters and gangster rap. So older people they hear the word nigga, but and that's what they see is like scary gangsters. They don't necessarily hear what the word means, how the word is being used, how flexible and pliable and malleable the word is in our culture. And I don't even really use it, but that was just like, and I even did like a Hulk Hogan voice. Like it's a very animated, goofy podcast. Like you're gonna learn something, but you're also gonna have a good time at the same time.
I love, I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but as a writing center, right, we have to really think intentionally and work around how powerful language can be because
Mhm.
there's always times where you're like, well, it's just a word, not the words we're using, but
Yeah.
uh, and then there are also times when words have a ton of power and the meaning of words changes over time, but the power behind them fades slowly. If it fades
Yes.
at all, it can also grow. um, so that's, I mean, totally the cultural and historical significance around slurs in particular
Yeah.
um, is totally beyond the scope of what I would generally talk about
Yeah. Yeah.
in a writing lesson, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's really, really, really an important thing to think about when you are someone who uses words for a living or for your craft,
hmm hmm
which
Yeah.
most artists do. Visual artists,
Yes.
not so much, but
Yeah.
music, if it's music with words, film, radio, words
Yeah.
are really important and they're very specific. My sister's a painter, and one time she said to me that she thinks probably painting is more personal, but with writing, uh, because it's so specific, because words have meanings that people generally can say, "Oh, this word means exactly this."
Mm.
There's an extra level of vulnerability to written art.
Yeah. Because because with paintings, I mean, obviously, even with writing, you can still say it's fiction, but painting, there's more like you can freestyle, there's abstract and stuff like that. With writing, yes, there's so much abstract you can do, but still words have meaning to it. So unless you're planning on just like inventing a whole language or building a giant story where the beginning of it is abstract, so then you get so deep into it, it makes sense. I mean, I feel like it's very difficult, and you usually have to put some of yourself into it. And even with when I do my podcast, Stuck in the Middle, I do it all in one take. There's no editing. I write my whole script. It's a whole thing. It takes a day. It's like a shift, and so it's been, and that's something that we've done ever since ever. Was it was all in one take, unless like something ridiculous happened, and then even then we have like a free app that we would just like tab it together, and we're just like it is what it is. Like there, I like even when I started podcasting, I wasn't even aware that there was as much editing as there is. Like podcasts are heavily edited, and I just like I thought that you would just come out and you would just be personable, you'd be yourself, and you would nail it. And it's just like people are like, oh, I said that one line weird, so let's just like restart everything. Like I don't know, it's just very weird. The whole thing about podcasts was you're supposed to be connecting with these people who like you don't know, but you get to know them through the process. And now people are putting personalities into podcasts. And it's just like, who are we listening to? Why are we listening to them? And I don't know. I find that less and less. I used to listen to so many podcasts. Now I seriously listen to like six. And mine isn't even one of them because like when I had Fat Boy, because I had someone else, because I would forget what he would even say. So it was nice to listen to that. So then I could listen to our banter back and forth. Now it's just me. I know what I'm talking about, other than making the sound clips and stuff that I do to like for promo. That's about the most of my own episode I listen to. I hear my voice enough, I feel.
I hear it in my head.
Yeah, all the time.
Um, Now tell me about the festival show.
Yeah, so the festival show. I've been doing that for over a year now. I a monthly concert series. So it's a mansion in Davenport, and that only holds like 150 people. And that was kind of the point of it. Was I wanted it to be super intimate, and it was even on a Wednesday. It like started at 7 and it was over by 9:30. So the whole thing was you could go out, get a night out, and still be home to watch Netflix, get in, and be in bed by like 10:05. So you could still be very responsible. But still get that like you inspiration, that energy, you're out, you're social, you're having a one of a kind experience in a 18 it was built in 1877. It's an Italian villa style mansion. So the place is just gorgeous. And then you have a DJ playing fun dance music, and then you have bands of different genres. So each show you have like rap, R&B, rock, and then like country or reggae or singer-songwriter or blues. I've had all of these genres, metal, punk, like, and that's because I love music. And it was like all I kind of want to like push the Quad Cities. That's kind of what my thing is. I enjoy it. I wanted to have fun. I would have had fun at the festival show. I'm not necessarily sure if there was a need or even want for it, but I was putting it on. I had this very long list of artists in the QC that I know are incredibly talented, and they need a place to actually perform their own music instead of playing at like the 11th Street precinct and playing cover songs for 4.5 hours. Like that shit has to be like soul crushing.
Shots fired.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
I appreciate it though. I feel like there's a level of dishonesty to trying to be appropriate or mild all the time. But you're right.
Well,
Like
yeah,
as an artist, if your job, if the thing that makes you money is doing someone else's art, you're right. That's got to be soul crushing.
at least for after a while. Like I'm sure like if you pop up and you do the occasional show, I'm sure that's great, but like I'm sure they're writing their own music. I'm sure they want to be their own, and then if they don't, then that's fine. But obviously the people
And
who
definitely
wants
some songs by other people like really touch your soul and it's great to
yes.
perform them.
Oh, I tell people if you have a great cover, perform it. But for the most part, I want to be able to give these people the opportunity to perform their own music that they've written, that they've recorded, that that they care much about. Like, because that's really what's going to make them money is performing their own music.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Now you've done other types of shows too. I know you had a gallery show at some point. I assume there was music there. Um,
yeah.
you you really, at least it seems like you've got your pulse on the you've got your finger on the pulse of the local art scene. How do you manage that?
So just myself, I love art. Like I've kind of always been like a solo dolo person for you Kid Cudi fans. I just kind of always been by myself, and so I'll just pop around and just go places by myself. So like art museums, I'll bowl by myself. I'll go play pool by myself. I'll go to a movie by myself, and just from there, like ballet, all kinds of art events and stuff like that. Since I'm by myself, I don't have to talk someone into going to something that they may not want to. So through going to all these events, I get to know people, and then they let me know about events, and I just kept putting my face out there. And again, it's just like something that I wanted to do. I've always wanted to kind of throw a pop up art event. I've always wanted art pop up art events here in the QC. And that's the bad and good thing about the Quad Cities is that there's still a lot that we can have here. But since we don't necessarily have the people who I guess are going to do it, I don't mind doing it. And at least if there are other people doing it, I've been able to help people out. Like I've now started becoming almost like a big bro type of person where I'm like consulting, and that's been like the most dope part of this whole experience that people are actually like reaching out. They care. Because I mean, in the end, that's kind of what everyone wants out of their life is to feel needed and wanted and that your thoughts matter. So it's been really nice.
Well, I've heard a lot of people who are in the local art scene talk about how there's just not a scene in the Quad Cities. And the problem I have with that is so many people are saying that to me that it sounds like people just aren't finding each other. Slash, I think, and I think this is probably the more real issue, there not being a history of these events makes people feel like there's no potential for them.
Hmm.
So that's something that really, really inspires me about the work that you do and the work that I would like to be doing, if I'm honest. is that we clearly have people who want it. We just don't have a history of doing it. And
Yes.
there's a lot of work necessary to making people like to the outreach, to making people know that like this is a thing we have. This is a people. This is a thing we can have. And it seems to me like you're doing pretty well at that, at just showing people that I have hair everywhere, at showing people that the art exists and that we can get together around it. Obviously, nobody was counting on a pandemic and quarantine, uh,
No.
and you somehow are managing to keep these live events alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I pivoted. Like, I mean, you kind of had to. So we had 2 months that were shut down because I was shut down for a temporary amount of time. And that was only unfortunate because one of the months I actually had like a whole outside 2 day festival set up, and it was like a giant arts fair. I had some craft people selling. I was gonna have comedy improv. I was gonna have comedians, burlesque. I was having other kinds of dancers, QC ballet, music, DJs. It was just gonna be this giant celebration of art. So we lost that, but that's obviously gonna happen again. That's not a problem. But with the
Okay, that's,
pivot,
I'm sorry.
oh yeah, but with the pivot, once we did outside shows, I did a birthday show and I teamed up with Fat Sacks, the stationary food truck. They're great homies of mine. They started in July. My birthday was in July, so we just teamed up and did the Fat Sacks Festival. So that was like a very good like clash throwing food on top of music and just a whole extra layer of community. And then the month after that, I did a school drive and we raised PPE in cash for Wood Intermediate. So we raised them, I think it was like $500 and all kinds of PPE and school supplies. So, oh, that is my. Sorry, my mom is FaceTiming me.
Hey, mom.
And yeah, right. And then so I just wanted to kind of get ahead of everything. So I switched to streaming. I did a September and October show, and that was the streaming. And the first show was at Renwick, and we changed rooms because I kind of wanted to test this out because I knew coming this December show, I had a big plan for that. And then the next few months, January, February, March, April is when things are going to start warming up, but people are going to be inside, locked down, and they're going to need some kind of semblance of like fun and entertainment and community. And so I wanted to knock out all the cobwebs, like mess up as much as you can. So by the time this December show is here, it is as glorious as it has been. And so we switched to streaming and we pre-record everything. So we do one shoot at a time, one group of people at a time. There's no like mass group of people. It's timed and it's been a process. And I honestly, I've loved it because I've been able to connect with the artists on a whole other level because I'm spending more time with them personally and they're performing with me. I'm learning a lot more on the actual event planning, like the logistics, like what the artist for audio, and I'm just becoming more knowledgeable on that aspect. And now that we are doing camera work, that is now me learning a whole extra, like, this is a new skill set that I'm learning for myself. So it's been really great growing with all of this. And it's been something that I wanted to do, but when you're forced, you just got to do what you got to do.
I love that. I think that's so important. I know I've seen and I've put on a lot of literary events since March, and it looks you. I don't know. I'm amused by it, but it's not really funny. You see a lot of growing pains in the like
Mhm.
really highbrow professionals, where I think the real shine, the real magic is happening in these. I don't want to say local, but like what would have been local events in the before time.
Yeah.
uh, I think it's really where we're shining because
Hmm.
we don't have all of the history of being highbrow and the pomp of having this huge venue that always has the big names and therefore like has never had to worry about these outside things.
Yes.
by virtue of having a history and name recognition.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's so exciting because also by virtue of being online, everyone has access to it.
Hmm.
So we have this really strange and wonderful opportunity to get our names out there, um, just because you can be anywhere in the world right now, kind of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think the whole resources thing, like these bigger businesses, now that they have been restrained and they have to pivot, they've never really had to. They've never been forced, so they can only do with the best. So they're just like how they don't know how to like take a step back, dumb things down, just like simplify things. If you can, I don't know. I just like I know that a lot of people are doing these like a lot of artists themselves are personally just doing live streaming concerts or they'll get like their buddies and stuff like that. But I'm surprised that, the Adler and all these people, these gorgeous buildings where they could truly be doing some like cool stuff. But it's just like I don't know if it's like fear or they just don't have the people who can do it, if they don't care. I don't know. Because I've even reached out to them. Again, I'll just say it. I've reached out to like all of these, trying to figure out some cool things to do while like stuff is shut down. Like that's half the reason why I even am doing the December show that I'm doing. I've been trying to push this whole thing called anti venues, especially if we're gonna like pre-record everything. Like it doesn't matter where we're performing, just like do it there. If especially if it's gonna add to the performance, if it's going to feed to the performance, if the contrast of that spot is going to aid in any way other than just like a boring stage. Like I don't know, because that was my biggest problem with switching to streaming, was that most streaming concerts it's just like one camera pointing straight and artist walks up on a stage, they perform, they walk off the stage, and then you're just waiting 25 minutes.
if you're
And
if you're at a live show, there's this thing where like on television and in movies, the speed at which the screen changes has
mhm,
sped up over the last 60 years. And you get that at a live show because you move your head or there's someone in front of you or like the loud noise coming from the side makes you move, and that's why it keeps your attention, whereas watching one still camera doesn't isn't appealing to all the senses in that way.
correct. And I agree. And that's why with the festival show, we have four cameras. Like we have four cameras. We have instilled cutscenes, there's entertainment value. It like that's why it's called the festival show, because live it was a whole show. But even now that I'm transitioned to the streaming, it's still going. I want it to feel like a show. So like there's no like slow moment. So it just there's an intro, there's an opening, the person performs, there's a cutscene in between, it's a flow. So it really feels like you're watching like a literal show. And yeah, like I'm truly excited for this December show. Like everything is it's kind of terrifying. I mean all I can really say about that is December 26th and 27th. Make sure that you're free. I mean, it's Christmas weekend. What else will you be doing,
What else are
people?
you doing? You
What
don't.
else will you be doing?
Um,
And
I know
we
that's
also
a secret, but I'm very excited for the announcement.
Yeah, and I also will say that we're giving it out for free. Like it's one of those things we just need like cheer needs to be had. Like happiness, like I know there most people are going to be very alone this Christmas and it's going to be very heavy. And if we can give you 2 days of entertainment and hilarity, another secret that I guess I'm willing to say is the Homie Foam Foolery. I don't know if you guys know who they are, but it's a comedy ventriloquist group, and they're local. So all of this is all local. It's local artists, local businesses. I try to connect with as many people, and then I even have local visual artists making my artwork for the festival show. So that's another layer that I want to start doing. So every single month, I want a different one, two, three, like honestly, as many as they want, like them to make their digital art because I need to try to find as many ways that I can help and uplift and highlight as many people. And so if I can do with that, and also I'm not that great with digital art. So like I've been doing this for a whole year by myself. I've gotten significantly better than what I was, and that's great. But like there are some people who are way better who deserve the attention for that. And let me focus on what I can do, which is not digital art.
I love that so much. I think that's another thing that we, like as society, not me or you, ignore a lot is that like there are experts in in the areas where you have weaknesses, and I think a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses are like, we've got talent in house, and we're going to use what's in house, and like maybe you don't have the expertise in this one area, so why not open that up to someone who could use the shout out. I wanted to also rewind a tiny bit with the big name venues or whatever that are not doing as great as us little guys. Um, I was thinking, I used to live in Chicago, I used to live in Seattle, and the big name places that I used to really, really love and support and go to the events at all the time, they're just not pivoting super well into the digital world. And that's really weird and interesting. And I think that it's probably like a scrappiness of doing things on your own that makes us better able to do that. I don't know that for sure. But back to taking advantage of the local talent to get the names out there, because you can, because you need them and they need you, and there's this wonderful reciprocity to the art world
Hmm.
that we should definitely be taking advantage of.
Yes, and that's like most of the time, like so Ashley McLean is my photographer, and so she does the photos for the artists for the shows. And most of these artists are like, I don't have a photographer to take any of my photos for any of my stuff. So now my photographer is going from, I always tell people, when you work with me, you will make more money off of me than you will ever make from me. So please make connections, please reach out to people, make friendships, because like the way that I work is like I try to make my relationships last forever if I get my way. Like if I can, they're going to last as long as possible, and I want my friends to do the same. And so now all of these artists now have a photographer, and now my friend as a photographer will get more and more consistent work. And so that's just kind of, we all need to feed off of each other, because also with the different artists, that's different styles and looks, and you never know what will like hit an individual seeing that artwork. So then, they'll follow them and then potentially buy prints and stuff like that. We just, the Quad Cities can only grow as much as as greatness is here. Like everyone loves Nashville and Austin and all that stuff, but that is still just a city with normal individuals in it. It just became like people pushed it as that. Like they put a bunch of money and focus on their music. Like if we truly did that, then we could get that same energy. But again, because it's just how I work, a lot of the money that could truly help the Quad Cities grow is being held by the same like four or five organizations. And it's just very hard for the city to truly grow because those five organizations are what is seen as the highest of the QC, but then they aren't even holding their end of the bargain to me. Like, so, like, if they aren't being held accountable and truly trying to push the QC into the future, like, how can we really grow? And so it's the people on the ground who need to start stepping themselves up. And then hopefully, if that inspires them to do more, then that's great. But honestly, we're still doing our thing and we're growing together, and we're going to do it with or without them.
I love that. And I that's another thing. Like the little guys, we've always had to be doing so much work that's how we're gonna survive. That's how we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep it up. Now I have the big important question that I think probably everyone watching this is really waiting for me to ask. Although go ahead and drop comments. I'm not actually paying attention to what's happening on our live stream, but I will think. How how would an artist get a hold of you if they want to be involved?
Man, I have so many ways you can get a hold of me. So personally,
And I'm going
Crunk
to put this
Cho-
in the comments. So go
cool.
for it.
Yeah, that's fine. So personally, Crunk Chocolate is my Instagram and my Twitter and my Facebook. That's Crunk, CRUNKCHOCOLATE. The festival show is one word, and that is on Instagram and Facebook. The festival show. You can reach to me that musically. Stuck in the Middle Podcast has a Facebook. We have an Instagram. We have a Twitter. That's Stuck in the Middle Pod or I Get Stuck Pod. Um, my yeah, like honestly, just reach out. I mean, even if you see we have a mutual friend, like reach out to the mutual friend and be like, hey. Honestly, I'm a very open person. Like I try to through all of my experiences in life, like there are a lot of things that kind of broke me. Oh, like earlier when you were talking about like words, they matter. Like 2 years ago, like there was like almost like this obnoxious positivity that I was gonna feed into, but also like making words mean what I want them to. And like one of them, like humble, because what I want to try to do is grow, and I need to be bigger than life. But in order to be bigger than life, I need to like walk around like I'm the best person ever, like I have the greatest ideas, because in my brain I think I do. And what's wrong with that? The word humble is a it's a it's a ball and chain. That's all the word has ever been used. Like even when it's used as a compliment, it's still a backhand compliment. And so humble was like one of those words that I needed to like obviously I'm using it, but like forget it in my own brain to not have to worry about that, not to have people try to use that word to be like, oh, he's being able to do great, even though he's being humble. Like, what does that have to do with anything? So I strongly believe that like words are very powerful, and I mean, that's half the reason why I do all the stuff that I do in the first place.
Totally love that. Um, I love that a lot. I know I said that like I didn't mean it. I do. I think like we put this really weird pressure on, I mean, I know you already said the toxic positivity thing, but particularly on being humble, like separate from humility.
Hmm.
Like if you have any confidence, suddenly you're wrong. I mean, there's a difference between arrogance and confidence, but like
Yes, of course, but even then, those are two different things, and people like you have to, in order for you to truly be yourself, you really can't worry too much about perception, because then that's going to alter kind of what you're doing. So I just keep my head down. Like even the perfect example is when people are like, Royce, Crunk, I love what you're doing. You're killing it. And I just go, thank you. I know. And some people are just like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, I know. Like, I'm working very hard to kill it. Like, I know I'm killing it. But hearing your words of affirmation, that helps. Like, of course that helps. But also, like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm doing great for me to then believe that I'm doing great. I love myself. And
oh
there's
man,
nothing wrong
after
with
a
that.
good event, like I'm high out of my mind thinking about how great I did.
Like truly, that feeling is great. Like, oh man, by the end of a festival
Like a
show,
crappy
like the
event.
live ones, oh, I'm great. Like,
I've I've
yeah,
hosted some, not that many, I swear. I'm good at what I do. Um, but I've hosted some crappy events and gone home sad about it. Like
yeah.
it's not like it's just a one-way train and I think I do great all the time. If I do a great event, I know I did a great event, and like I also know every tiny mistake I made. It can be a good event and I could have made a lot of mistakes and I'm going to go home with both feelings, and that's
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's kind of with events. So like the half the reason why I care very much. So like, yes, I'm using local artists, but these are truly amazing. Like, if I would not be like, hey, they're in Davenport, and half the time I don't even really push with QC Zone, because the people in the QC you think would be supporting the show the most, because they see QC Zone, they decide not to pay attention. But if I just say that I have a DJ in four bands of four different genres, people are like, "Oh, great! Where are you finding these artists from?" And I'm like, well, this one I had breakfast with yesterday. This one I had coffee with the other day. Like it's and the whole thing is to like raise pride. Just like, oh yeah, the Quad Cities is dope. Like we're like brainwashed to say how great our city is, but also brainwashed to not believe our
Yeah.
city is as great as we say it is.
Never
Like it
thought
can't
of
be
that
both.
before. But probably if you were like, come to this Quad City artist show, I'd be like, which
Yeah.
is so crappy because I'm a Quad City artist and I work with Quad City artists and I love Quad City artists and I'm aware of how talented they are. But you're right. When you frame it that way, I check out a little bit. That's so awful.
No, but it is. But again, like it is what it is, and that's why all of my graphics, like I've always worked with great photographers, like the homie Josh Ryuju and Scott Dot Skiles. I was gonna say Skiles, yes, but Dot Skiles. Like I've had really great, and then Ashley. I've had really great artists who take their work seriously. So then if I have amazing photos with amazing artists with amazing video, audio, all of that stuff. You have no choice but to take it seriously
And
because
that's so weird because there's not something that makes someone more talented from being from somewhere else. And we really need to like milk this and amp it up because we do have great artists right
Mhm.
here. And that's, I mean, that's what both of us do. Like that's what both of us work on all the time is the local arts and the local artists. And so we should be intimately aware of this, but you're right. Like if I don't see it framed in a certain way, I'm not going to look at it the same way. That's so terrible. Huh. Thank you.
Well, that you're welcome. But that's also like all of my lanes they tie together. Like my stuck in the middle, like me having to figure out how I can like, filter my words to for them to still resonate with another person because I would like to believe that I am like not necessarily like open in my beliefs where like everyone should just but I don't care what other people are doing inside their homes, like that's just not my problem. And so since I'm not focusing on other people's whatever, like I'm able to focus more on myself and growth, and so that helps me with my life in general. I just kind of focus on me and what helps me grow. And if that just happens to be throwing amazing art events and visual art events and music events and hosting poetry, spoken word events and stuff like that. Like once the world opens back up, like Crunk Chocolate is going to be having some kind of event once a week. So please know that the arts community, you, at least with me, I know plenty of other people who are doing so many great things, like truly great things. But I at least know with myself, you're in good hands.
I love that. I love that. And same, you know, we at the Midwest Writing Center really love
Yes.
doing events and you know, we're still doing lots of them. I am doing this right now. Um but you know, we do our writer's studio on Saturday mornings,
Yes.
the first and third Saturday mornings. So it's like a critique group and a generative group. We've got workshops still going on where you can, you know, take classes with us. And we've been doing readings, not as often as I'd like, I will admit, but we're still doing our readings and we're not going to stop.
No.
Clearly, we don't
Can't.
know when the end of this pandemic is going to be, but like we really miss working with Roz Talks and having our events there in you know the world's greatest venue.
Love you, Ross Talks.
Once upon a time, we had one event at the Brood Book, and we were really hoping to keep that up.
Yeah, the place is lovely.
I've
Yeah.
never been. I know you know this. I just came back.
Yes.
I'm a I had my homecoming here recently. Um, but it sounds like my dream. You know, I
Yeah.
coffee and books. Like that's
Yeah.
all I want out of life, basically. Um, so that's another thing like that you do particularly well is those collaborations and how I suppose we can I can skip a lot of my questions. We can we can wrap up pretty soon here.
I mean, I got nothing to do, so I mean, we can end this whenever you want to. We can do, yeah, we're good.
Excellent. Well, so well, you already answered anyway. What I was going to ask is like, how do you make those connections? And you were like, by going out and doing things. There are people there.
Yeah, I like okay, so like also like ego. Like our ego gets our in the way of so many things. And like a perfect example is my homie DJ K Young. She is this amazing DJ. She travels the nation. She's a part of this like DJ union, sponsored by Bel Air. She does like the monster truck rally, like she's their national MC for that. Like Shade 45 Eminem's satellite radio show. She has her own show that she does once a month, once or twice a month there. Like this is someone from the QC who does like is has nationwide recognition, but like you would never know because you know we're all kind of like stuck in our own little bubbles. But she came into where I bartend, and I knew who she was, and just plain, I was like, "Hey, you're DJ Young. I'm a big fan. This is what I do, the festival show. I would love to work with you." And I can't tell you how many of my friends can tell you a very similar story of how I came to them. Like I'm just like, "Hey, this is what you do. I respect that greatly. Let's grab a drink sometime. Let's get to know each other. I want to pick your brain. I want to see how you see the world because all I know is I don't know everything. And so I just try to take in as much information and then do with that from there. And so yeah, I try to keep my ego as small as possible. And so if I have to make a fool of myself in order to show someone that I am being true and honest and trying to come to them with humility, then yeah, it is what it is.
My friends make fun of me all the time because I just walk around starstruck just constantly, and I think that's great. It makes it so that I enjoy life a lot. I am always in awe of everything. And it's not like I don't think that celebrities are bigger or better than I am. Um, but I when I know who you are, I'm just excited and I get nervous, but like I don't let that stop me from
Yeah.
I function, and this is advice I'll give to anybody. This is really how I function. When there's a decision to be made, this is going to sound stupid, but truly, really good advice, in my opinion. I function based on projected future regret. So, like, if I'm sitting here starstruck, I'm going to remember for the rest of my life if I said nothing. So say
That,
something.
but also that's strong of you to be able to kind of look ahead, because that is kind of the problem with a lot of people. They're just like they'll either just like run up and be wild. Because I mean, like you can be starstruck, but obviously be respectful. Like if you just pull up and you just like phone hi hi, and you just like turn and try to do selfie, like that shit's wild, bro. Like
No,
in the end, they're
that's
humans. Like, is that the energy that you would want someone to come up to you with? Like, just be like, hey, I know who you are. I respect you. You're really cool. Keep up the good work, and then just keep it moving. I mean, that's just how it is.
I
And they
wanted to
pre
also mention, and not like I don't actually have strong opinions about this person, but if you were doing this, I'm sorry, my brain is everywhere. But if you were doing like a hometown heroes Quad City show, um, and like the headliner was Julia Michaels, right? Like she's
yeah,
a big top 40 star who went to North. Like you wouldn't do that. You would be
yeah,
like top 40 star
yeah,
Julia Michaels.
yeah,
And I think that's her name. Oh my God, am I getting
yeah.
her?
No, no, no.
Okay.
You're doing great. You're good. You're
And I remember, I mean, this was a long time ago. I was still a teenager, maybe even a really young one, but someone in like a Hillary Duff movie ended up being a big star. And she also went to North. North, what are you doing with your musicians?
yeah. I don't know.
I'm trying to be all central as an alum, but I just keep
Blue
listening to
Devils.
North people.
Woo woo.
um, but yeah, that's back to, we do create greatness here, and we just
Hmm.
don't, we're like wildly self-deprecating as a community.
Yeah, and I get it, and it's because we're used to not having things, and so even when you get things, you see that as a one-off. And we don't need to be seeing this as a one-off. We need to be seeing this is the new wave, that we have all these amazing talented individuals all around the city who are now starting to get the shine that they deserve. And that's because of this time where we've had to shut things down. We've had to be forced to kind of look what's around us, because we're not traveling, we're not running around, we don't have all these, we're not inundated with what's going on around in the world. We're now being able to focus on who is across the street from me. And that's been brilliant. And I just hope that when the world opens up, people can kind of keep that energy, because it's going to be needed more than ever. Because, yes, trust me, I want to travel again, but like, remember, we're all still here. Local things are still going to be happening. So, like,
I
try to do both.
bought this really, really beautiful piece of art by comic poet Lauren Haldeman. She's in Iowa City, and it was a map. I don't. It's in a different room, or I would just show you. Actually, this is cute. It's a map, and it says the local pandemic economy, and that's
Mm.
you reminded me of that, talking about like who's next door, who's across the street, and on it, it's like a biology teacher who um, that's not what it is, but it's a biology teacher who um, has chickens and has their own eggs, or a hairdresser who has a great sourdough starter. And it's, there's like 10 things on this map, but it's, yes, your neighbors are doing amazing things. And we just haven't had the opportunity to learn that because we're so hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
great opportunity for that. I'm going to be so optimistic after this. Thank you.
Yeah, see, and that's what I mean by like, because I mean, I things are what they are, and that's okay. And that's okay was one of the biggest phrases that I use. Like, I don't like that person, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to explain to me why I should like that person, why I should get along with that person, why even though what I'm doing is what they're doing, we should work together. Like, sometimes that just isn't how things work, and that's okay. And so, like, I don't know. It's just like a lot of kind of just like, and I'm sure they are just like airbags to prepare myself for when like craziness happens. Because when you just like jump out the window and you stop working at a corporate job of 10 years, and you're just like, I want to throw events now. Like you kind of have to like mentally prepare yourself for when shit hits the fan. How are you going to handle it? So there are just kind of all these like, all right, now since this step didn't work, what's step B? What's step two? What's step C? What's step four? Like I'm changing, like well,
Mhm.
I'm just you just got to do what you got to do, and
You're touching on something really, really beautiful and important. My mother-in-law is a therapist, which that sentence I know is troubling because the mother-in-law stigma. But she said something to me recently, which was, "What if that's okay?" The things that we complain about, and then, but what if that's okay? Which is exactly what you were saying. You can have X problem and it be okay. Um, which has nothing to do, I guess, with the arts, but it's a really important headset
no,
to
but
go with.
also it has everything with it because like the pandemic has hit. These artists like they're still making art, they're still creating, they still need to get that out somehow. And so like yes, the pandemic happened, and that's okay. Like now, what are you going to do? Like why let something that we are now what 9 months in basically like if you have not figured out what to do with it, you just aren't trying. You don't care, and that's the crunk chocolate coming out in me, which is very tough love. Like if you have not figured out how to like flip what you're doing before to make it work now, you need to pivot to something else, and at least hold on to that until when the world opens back up, you can go back to doing that. But it's just like I don't know.
You
I'm
know,
like I said, I'm on the third.
that's advice I always give for writer's block. If it's not working, try something else. Um, Also, there's this whole in the writing world controversy about what writer's block is because technically speaking, by definition, you can't have writer's block if you're not a professional writer. But like all of us get stuck in our craft,
Yeah.
and the number one advice that I can give, and I think it's excellent advice, which is why I give it, is do something else. Do something you would never do. Switch up your genre, switch up your form, switch up, don't use a pen and paper, use a computer, vice versa. I think I'm the only one who uses a pen and paper. Um,
Wow, Grandma.
I know. I know. I feel like such a Luddite so often, and then I'm also the tech guy on site, so I can't be, but I feel like it. You also mentioned ballet earlier when you were just talking about going to events on your own. And
Hmm.
I used to think ballet was so boring. And I'm like ashamed to say this, but also I think that a lot of us have this idea. So maybe I'll be helpful. And then for school in college, I had to go to a ton of arts events for different classes, but I had to go to a ballet. And this ballet was about Mao's China. I didn't know ballets could be about things either, uh,
Yeah.
which they definitely can. All art
Yeah.
is a conversation with something in this
Yes.
world. Um, and that opened me up so much. I have a friend in Iowa City. I worked with her at Barnes and Noble, who does ballet and loves ballet. And she said that that's a really common thing that people think that they have to like sit still and sit straight and sit in a quiet room to engage with ballet, but that's not a thing like any other art, which is so cool. And
Yeah. Yeah. Like I go and like yes, I dress nice, but my version of nice is not any traditional versions of nice. And that is like my wall that I am gladly trying to break down, and I'm having a great time. But no, I go and I have a great time. Like the physicality of ballet is like one of the things that people don't pick up. Like that, like in sitting up front, like that's what I did the first time I went to ballet is I got as close as I could.
oh,
And just literally hearing that
and like the
like
the
it's
professional
violent.
graphist out there,
Yeah.
are dancing. Like,
Yeah. Their feet hitting the ground. Like by the end of it, I'm just like, I don't know how they're doing. My feet hurt watching it, and then just watching their strength. Like I watched a fight scene. It was a fight scene in ballet.
yes.
Like and stuff like that. Like it like broke my brain. I was just like, what? What
I
is?
remember right around the same time as I saw that ballet about Mao's China, um, there was a Shakira music video that came out in which I want to say Kid Cudi was in it. You mentioned Kid Cudi, and he's my baby. Um, in which there's a fight scene and it's clearly ballet and you're like how or maybe I don't know much about dance but it's a beautiful graceful dance. I'm like how did you do that,
Yeah.
which is why I mentioned like if you watch professional wrestling like AEW and WWE. I know letters.
Look
uh,
at you.
they're freaking dancing. They're dancing.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, muscle, what is it, physical intelligence, muscle brain. um
I like that. I like that actually better.
I word. I word good.
You're so great at words.
My
but
my
but yeah,
dad
the
used to
oh sorry.
say, "Aren't you supposed to be a writer?" And eventually, I came up with, "Yeah, but I can't do it out loud."
Yes. You're talking about planning, writing, editing, all that stuff. Yeah, you're asking me to speak words because all these events that I do, uh, even with some of the pre-recording that we're doing with the shoots, there have been times where I've needed to be in front of a camera and with like, hey, nail this line and seem normal. I have not been the best at that. I've gotten better, but that's because I picked up like this whole other side transitional curriculum position, which helped me at that. But like I literally was just like, "Hi, I'm Royce," and so the things like this where it's live and I can truly like be myself and I don't have to think. I'm great. Like that's fantastic. Like just let me talk out of my butt anytime. I'll do great at that. But for me to memorize lines, that's kind of where things get a little messy, and so I become behind the camera.
Oh, totally. I'm the same way. I mean, I love performing. I love performing, but that's entirely different. That's not not trying to represent myself and also be a robot. But some people really need to prepare. That's something that I've learned and really loved learning doing the having guests on Write More Light is, some people I send interview questions to in advance and some people I don't. And personally, I prefer that it's a conversation. I think it's more fun for everyone,
Yes.
particularly the audience.
Hmm.
But it's been really fun learning the different ways of talking to people. Maybe that
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but it's
No,
true.
you're right. Because even with my podcast, like I don't have guests on it often. When Fat Boy first left, I was having guests on it often because I thought that like what I needed. I'm just gonna do exactly what I did with Fat Boy, but with another guest. And like a couple of them were good, and one was good, and then one was like not at all. Like was not. And so that's when I was like, all right, this is my art. This is what I am creating. I need to take more control. Let me figure out what it sounds like by myself before I then try to add others in. So now, if I ever have a guest, like my homie Obs, period, he's actually is about to drop a spoken word piece, album, and it's amazing. And so my next episode is going to be with him, and we're going to do like an album listening, and we're going to talk about it because he talks about like male toxicity, the dating world, like being honest with your feelings and the romantic sense. Like he addresses a lot of things that are kind of like going on in this world, and he addresses them in like the best way possible because that's just kind of how his brain works.
He was
But
also
also,
Midwest Writing Center artist in residence a few years back.
yes, yeah, he's the homie, and yeah, and I'm pretty sure you that might have been where I originally heard from you guys was he mentioned you or something like that, and just like any
I
kind of
met him once. I was in Seattle at the time. And I just walked up to him at Roz Talks one day and I was like, I think I know who you are.
yeah,
But
he's good people. Like he's part of the family. Like they're like I used to host his monthly spoken word events that he was throwing before COVID hit, and that was like a great thing that we were starting to do. So when the world opens back up, that was like a really fun community, the spoken word community, because that's completely it's cause spoken word. It's poetry with like passion. I obviously like poetry is passionate, but like when you speak it, you have to like you're there's energy with it.
It's
But it
that I try to fight a lot, as someone who works in writing, in the writing world, that there's this terrible, terrible, and toxic, if you ask me, idea that writers are these like solitary uh, people who like type on their keyboard all alone and then they submit their manuscript somewhere and they just exist in this vacuum. I think it's super, super toxic. The best, sorry, them's the breaks, writing is to be performed.
Mhm.
And you are the person who's going to read your work the best.
Yeah.
It's not I mean, it's not to be happening in my head. I don't know the way that you're gonna read it. I don't know where your inflection lies. And any and totally, totally, like, not everyone is a performer, and I don't mean to, I definitely said it, but I don't totally mean that like all writers must perform. It's not a thing. Most writing is consumed silently, but writers are also performers. The end.
Yeah, no, I agree, and something about the performance, and like that's how you're truly gonna, like you said, hear how it comes from that artist, that writer. How was this art supposed to be ingested? And that's what I love about it. And with spoken word, you're getting all these different people, and most of them are kind of like quiet people, and they just kind of sit in the corner, and then they clap, and then they go up, and then they just have these like powerful pieces, and it can be
Oh,
about
I love
love
it.
and trauma and experience and hope and joy. Like the like you truly never know what people are going to talk about, and then it gets done and the event's over, and there's all these different people from all these different walks of life, but we are connecting through the spoken word. So they're like, hey, when you said this, I felt that. Like they're giving each other credit. They're talking to people who they would never ever see each other. And with us doing that, we went from, I think the first show we might have had 7 people, and before COVID shut down, Rostock's was packed, like literally packed. We had to like turn poets away, like it like to build a community like that. Like it really was, and that's what I want to do with everything. I want to build a community. I just want at least one place where creatives, artists who tend to be odd people. They tend to not fit in. I want to be able to have a place somewhere where they can fit in, where they can just come in and be themselves and be weird. And I will be leading that weirdness. Like I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I love that. I will be leading that weirdness. Are you, this is my last question.
Okay.
Are you looking for artists right now, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, honestly, everything. Because, like I said, with visual artists, digital artists, I'm always needing artwork for the festival show because that is a monthly show. And so that photographers, I have a photographer, but I am looking for a videographer, like someone to capture like video instead of still. You need multimedia, so I mean that's specifically something I'm looking for. But I always need musicians, like always, like in the Quad Cities. I go out to Iowa City, Des Moines, like I try to do like 3 hours because I don't want anyone to be doing all this stuff because
Chicago.
really it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours of time. So I don't want you driving more than you're gonna be like sitting with me. Like I'm not that kind of guy. So yeah, up to 2 3 hour radius, like Des Moines, Waterloo, all of you guys, like please hit me up on any of those. Reach out to Midwest Writing Center and ask them how to get a hold of me. Like truly, like please reach out. I appreciate it. It's all of like yeah, all of the arts.
So we serve, when we do our big contests, I think we've got a 3 state radius, but for our little things, our service area is Rock Island, Henry. Oh no, I don't know Illinois counties.
I don't either. So
Well, there's 3 counties in both states. The Iowa ones are Clinton, Scott, and Muscatine, which I only remember because of the community college.
yeah,
Um, Henry, Rock Island, and something else.
you are seeing Illinois. We see you, and we
We
apologize.
love you. You guys are
We
killing
do.
it.
You're so great.
It's true. I really love Illinois. I used to say if I had to live in the Quad Cities, it would be in Rock Island. Um,
And then, are you living in Rock Island?
no, but
Oh,
I live
mm.
real close to my parents, so
Did
that's
they live in Rock Island?
no.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be like setting you up like this at the end of the interview.
No, no, it's good. I feel really bad that Illinois gets crapped on, and it's no bueno.
Yeah,
I
they do.
love Illinois.
They have some moments. I'm just kidding. I thoroughly enjoy all the places,
I
and
mean, when events happen, they're in Rock Island.
yeah, no, like Red Sox. Yeah, truly. Like we have very few music venues right now, and so
Oh, it's
I know of a couple that are about to pop up in the QC soon. So that's exciting. But right now, Illinois is holding it down.
yeah, as a kid, also they're like way safer than we are. As a kid, it was Theo's. That's every day. If I could get there, I would go to Theo's, and they had um open mics and all the cool kids and
Yes, yes.
shows.
Theo's been around for such a long time. Like, so it's just like we have so many institutions that they need to stay. Like, if we lose them, like, what's gonna happen? Like, Circa 21, those are like I get how people may feel about those. But I love Circa 21 shows. I've been to multiple. I hosted one this summer. Like, it's uh again, and that was like a very weird circumstance. Like, I'm hosting a theater show. Like, people are singing and dancing, like theater. Like, it's and
At the same time.
yeah, and I'm like coming out, and I'm just like, "Hi, what's up, people?" Like, yes, I'm not your normal host. This is great, but that's kind of what they wanted to do. They wanted to embrace like a change, and then they also helped me. They donated like I want to say a good like 200-300 of that $500 was from that Circa 21 show. Like the owner of Circa 21, he just while he's thanking everyone, he was like, "Hey, does anyone have a hat where we can just like take some money and donate to the festival show?" Like that, I didn't ask for them to do that. Like that was just out of his own. He thought of that, and to raise almost $300, like just off of a whim. That's like the beauty of like the human connection and the connection with the arts, and like I don't know, it's just love, like stuff like that that truly like inspires me.
A couple of theater troops I know in on the Illinois side, and they've got the improv groups are on the Illinois side. Look at me knowing things that are not vague.
Yeah, because I know Show Us Your Pokeballs because they were one of the groups that were gonna be a part of the
Oh,
April the festival
Pokeball?
show. Show Us Your Pokeballs. Yeah,
All right. I'm new. I've been gone for 12, 13 years.
yeah. I mean, that's the only one I know of. I did like some quick research, and I knew that they were before. Yeah, and then like there's like a whole faction of like burlesque troupe, like the growth that is coming here. Like, and that's what I'm here for. If I can work with all of you guys, like QC Salsa Collective, like it's like this group of people who love doing salsa and similar style dances. Before COVID got too crazy,
That's so
they
cool.
I was gonna have them be a part of this December the festival show, but since salsa is very close, that's not kind of the best thing for right now.
Honestly, as a non-dancer, um, gosh, I bet that they're really, really, really struggling right now. There are ways to
Mhm.
do theater um, over the internet, not as fun, um, not the natural habitat,
Mhm.
but yeah, if you do partnered dancing, it's just over.
Yeah, because I did a I did like a local Dancing with the Stars event a couple months ago, and they are doing one more right now, and they switched to streaming. But it's just like that's why I didn't continue because I knew something similar like that would happen. That like COVID would get really weird, and I already am social enough where I need to be responsible where I can. So like doing an event like that just it didn't fit, and so when the world opens back up, please believe your boy will be back at it doing the foxtrot or the cha cha or the box step. I'm just out here.
I love that. Yeah. Uh, when we're back, we will be back.
Yes, she said it, guys. Nailed it.
True. Real stuff here. So I guess I would like to do a little shout out as a sign off, like support your local orgs, especially if they're closed right now. They could use your donations, and I'm sure they accept in-kind donations if you don't have cash. Um, this is a real struggle for places like the ones we mentioned that just won't survive without us. You know, the big box stores are going to be fine, but you know, if these people depend on you coming in for business, they're not. So find your favorite place and figure out how to support them. Um, thank you, especially to people like you, Royce, who are making it happen, who are making the arts stay alive when so few other things are staying alive. Um, because you know, at the end of the day, we're still artists, even if we're stuck at home. Um, that's really important. Which reminds me, one thing I didn't touch on that I meant to. I know in the beginning of Stuck in the Middle, there was a bit of a focus on, like, you do all the regular like news and pop culture things, but there was a focus too on being Black in the Midwest. And I think
Mhm.
that that's also I don't know if you're still doing it. It's been a little while since I've caught up. I tend to do that. I tend to listen to podcasts while I cook because that's when I listen best.
Yeah.
I haven't cooked in a while. But I think that's a really important niche that gets left out a lot. So I also want to give you a shout out for that. Especially, I know when I've traveled with groups, every time some obnoxious person from wherever we travel to will be like, "You have Black people there," as
Yeah.
if that's a thing. Like,
Hmm.
yes, obviously, it's not Antarctica where there are no people.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
It-
yeah,
I do. It's like when more local, like if so on this next episode, I'm going to talk about how our city is about to start fining people for loud mufflers. Like it's like silly things like that that the city's kind of reaching out to. Like I get it, you guys are broke, people aren't driving as much, so you're not getting other tickets of other sorts and styles, and you're probably not arresting people as much as you used to. So you know all of that other money that you would just be like raising up, you know, you're not able to do it. So you just gotta
and
find new ways to screw over your citizens.
it,
So it's
that
stuff
stuff
like
like that
that.
disadvantages people who don't have money to fix their mufflers.
Exactly. Like and it's there are multiple times where I so what I technically address is like things that are happening in my city and why, because I am a person of color, I can actually see it as the BS that it is, instead of people just trying to be like, yeah, it's just like a curfew, even though the curfew is specifically on an area of town that is one of the poorest and most culturally diverse areas of the city. Why would you just shut that area down from 10 to 6 a.m.? Like, why? Like, what sense does that make? And it's just like, yeah, that is our mayor, that is our city of Davenport, and they're kind of wilding right now. And so, specific situations like that, I'll call out. Like Moline, they are up to some stuff too. Like, trust me, it's all over the place. The whole Quad Cities is up to no good, and I try if I find it, I
That's
talk
really
about
hard.
it.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just think you're really cool. I'm really happy you're here.
I appreciate that.
I hope I'm just gonna say this live so that you can't say no to me. I hope we can collab in the very near future.
Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
that'll happen.
you
I'm
know,
sure we can figure something out.
MWC loves you. Even if I'm just taking on the role of spokesperson, it's happening. Uh, I am for those watching who don't know. Royce and I did an event together once upon a time in the before, and it was probably my favorite event I've ever done.
Yeah, I
And
had a great time.
so I hope we can do more of that.
Yes, no, truly, I would love to do something like yeah, because I mean that was really what inspired my pop up art event because you really only know what you can do until you do something similar, and so I hosted an art event. So I was like, all right, well, if this can happen in Iowa City, this can happen in Davenport, and that introduced me to a chunk of artists. So I started my art event with like two artists from that event, and then I built from there. And that's kind of what you need to do. You just need half the time with an idea, people just need to take that first step. And so that's what that was being in an art event, meeting two actual artists where I could be like, hey, I want to throw in an art event. Can you come to it? So now I got two people. So now I already feel inspired. So it's easy to build from there. So I don't know. It's definitely happening. We're going to be doing all the events. Like I said, I want if I get my way, once a
Actually,
week,
I
one
bought
kind of crunk chocolate event is going on.
I bought this there.
Yes.
I tried to, I really, I just moved and I tried to like have art behind me, but I also want to look at art. So like the wall behind my computer it's got art from Lara. So this is Billy. I think you had Billy.
Hmm.
And then I've got Lara on the opposite wall. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I want to be able to look at art, not just have the people looking at me look at art. So
It
it's a work in progress.
always says life is a work in progress.
I think I'm out of questions for you. Um, we talked about your podcasts and
Yeah.
festival show.
Uh
We
huh.
talked about how you got into being such a community builder here locally. Um, I asked you how folks can get a hold of you. I asked you what you're looking for now. I asked you about current projects.
Hmm.
Obviously, I will never run out of things to say to you. You're just really easy to talk to. Um, but we have been doing this for about an hour and a half, so
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna let
Wow.
I'm gonna let
Oh,
folks head out and do their Thursday things.
thanks for hanging out with us, people. Sorry to do this to
Well,
you.
I'm not. I actually got a text that was talking about how great this is. So
Oh,
boom,
great.
people
Good.
care.
Good.
Um, because I usually leave you with 5 minutes on a timer with a writing prompt. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make you stick around silently and watch me and Royce awkwardly write here on camera. Um, the prompt I will leave you with, though, is I want your poem or your character or your essay to focus on, guess what? Live art. Um, as you know, I often end up just journaling about a topic to get the juices flowing. That's totally valid. Um, but since COVID, we've done a lot in the writing world to talk about um, what we miss, and I would like to not do that. Obviously, like don't shut down your feelings. If that's what's going to come, that's what's going to come. But I would really love for this piece, for your free write, to focus on possibility. Um, I'll mention that again before I sign off, but I would also like to give a shout out to the other events we've got going on. We're still doing that first and third Saturday of the month, 11 to 1 Central Time. We do our Writer's Studio. That's a generative slash critique group. We talk about, the triumphs and trials of writing since we had gotten together last, and then we help each other with our work. We have our holiday open house is still happening. It's going to be virtual. Hit me up or contact us on social media. You can email me. I'll put my info in the comments. I have to find it now. To RSVP. If you do RSVP by December 4th, you'll get a care package. It'll have a bunch of goodies in it so that while we have our open house, we're on camera meeting with each other virtually. We've got all the goodies we would ordinarily have in person. It's going to have like a some baked goods, a mix, some drink mixes, some recipes, a MWC press. I don't know my email address. Sorry, an MWC press publication, some writing that we really love will be in there, and we'll either mail it or deliver it to you if you're too far away for me to drive. So go ahead and RSVP to that. There will be more details on our website and on our social medias about the holiday open house. We've also got the chapbook series going on. So if you have, it doesn't have to be poetry. Go ahead and submit to us at your book length chapbooks are shorter, so this is 30 pages of poetry, prose, hybrid script, whatever it is that you write. Go ahead and submit that to us for publication. That's Foster Stall chapbook series. We'll publish more than one book if we've got that content going. You don't have to be in our service area to submit your work to that. So that's dope. Again, more information on our social medias and websites so that I'm not stumbling over the details and getting them wrong. Again, feel free to hit me up or contact our social medias about that. And then we also have, we talked about last week with Misty when she was on the show, our 2020, our anthology of 2020. I'm trying not to call it a disaster anthology, but submit your work, submit your writing, hybrid, whatever, on what you survived, what you gained, what you went through in 2020. It doesn't have to be a disaster. But it's cool if it is. We want to do some coverage of, the terrible and the unknown. We've got the derecho, we've got the Black Lives Matter protests, we've got the pandemic, obviously. I am either going to be writing a hopeful piece that's to/about a friend who's a nurse, or I'm going to be writing about the war in Armenia. Those are the two things that have affected me most this year. So really, if it happened in 2020, go ahead and submit it. I think that's all I've got. That'll be a print anthology, which is dope. We don't get published in print a whole lot. And then finally, of course, subscribe and like and follow the Midwest Writing Center, but subscribe and like and follow Mr. Crunk Chocolate. I put his handles all in the chat already. And as always, hit us up with your questions, comments, concerns. We want to be a good resource for you out there in the arts world. And I'm sure Royce is open to that too. My expertise is clearly limited, but he has connections all over the place and loves all of I also love all of the arts. I just don't know a ton about them. And I'm semi-new to the community. Thank you, Royce, so much for everything you do for our community. I am actively inspired by you and really, really excited about the work that you do. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I look forward to collaborating either, through our professional life or as, human beings who are artists. I love hanging out with you. I love the work that you do. I'm really happy you are here. And as always, I hope everyone out there writes more light into your life.
Thank you. I appreciate all of that love. I'm going to be buzzing for the rest of the day, so thank you.
Yay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end our live stream here. And yeah, write more light.